Good evening. This is your latest global briefing. Today's top story centers on a dramatic and unexpected development in the Middle East. Iran has temporarily closed its airspace to commercial flights amid intensifying tensions with the United States, with ripple effects felt across global aviation and geopolitics. In an unprecedented move that has disrupted international travel and raised fears of wider conflict, Iranian authorities ordered a temporary closure of the nation's airspace, affecting hundreds of flights and prompting urgent reactions from governments and airlines worldwide. The closure, which lasted for roughly 5 hours, restricted air traffic over Iranian skies and forced many commercial airlines to reroute, delay, or cancel services, highlighting how geopolitical tensions can have immediate and far-reaching effects on civilian aviation. Late on Wednesday, Iranian civil aviation authorities issued a notice to air missions, announcing that the country's airspace would be closed to most flights. Only aircraft with prior authorization were allowed to proceed, a rare and highly unusual step outside of declared war or major military conflict. This directive came amid heightened tensions between Tehran and Washington, with both sides trading warnings over actions taken in recent weeks. Although Iranian officials did not publicly state the precise reason for the closure, global aviation agencies described it as a precautionary response to possible military activity or escalation. Iran's airspace was effectively sealed to international carriers during this period, leading to immediate operational disruptions for flights transiting across the Middle East. The impact was swift and widespread. Major airlines, including carriers from Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, reported significant changes to their flight plans. Some flights were canceled outright, while others were rerouted to avoid Iranian airspace. Indian carriers such as Air India, Indigo, and SpiceJet issued travel advisories, warning passengers of potential delays and advising caution for routes traditionally passing over Iran. Similarly, several other international airlines, including Lufthansa, Emirates, Qatar Airways, Turkish Airlines, and Pegasus, scrambled to adjust their schedules and flight paths after the closure was announced. These disruptions occurred because Iran occupies a strategic position in global air routes. Its airspace is frequently used for flights between Europe and Asia. When that corridor is closed, flights must detour around the restricted area, leading to longer flight times, higher fuel costs, and logistical challenges for airlines. Even after Iranian authorities lifted the closure later that night, the effects continued, with airlines and airports still adjusting schedules and travelers left to cope with cancellations and delays. Governments around the world took the closure seriously. Western nations expressed concern about rising tensions in the region, and several issued travel advisories urging their citizens to avoid non-essential travel to Iran. In addition, some countries moved to temporarily evacuate or restrict the movement of their diplomatic and military personnel stationed in the Gulf region. This included advisory notices from both the United States and the United Kingdom, underlining the seriousness of the situation. The United Nations Security Council also scheduled an emergency meeting at the request of the United States, reflecting the degree to which global leaders are watching developments. The airspace closure cannot be fully understood without considering the broader context. Iran is currently experiencing widespread anti-government protests that have drawn international attention and condemnation due to violent crackdowns and substantial casualties. These protests have intensified political pressure on Tehran and fueled tensions with the United States and its allies, who have criticized Iran's handling of the unrest. In response, the United States has taken precautionary military measures in the region and publicly warned Iran against escalating violence. Tehran, for its part, has maintained that it seeks to protect its sovereignty and has denied plans to execute further crackdowns. This environment of mutual suspicion and brinkmanship helps explain why Iranian authorities opted for such an extraordinary aviation restriction, even at the cost of disrupting civilian airline operations. Beyond immediate flight disruptions, the closure has broader economic and security implications. For the global aviation industry, this incident highlights how quickly geopolitical instability can affect commercial operations. The threat or anticipation of conflict, even without an actual military strike, can prompt airlines to reconsider routes, adjust fuel planning, and incur higher operational costs. Markets are also sensitive to geopolitical signals. News of airspace closures and potential conflict can influence oil prices, investor confidence, and economic forecasts as businesses reassess risk in the region. Additionally, the disruption comes at a time when global travel demand has been rebounding from the pandemic. Unanticipated flight cancellations and safety concerns risk chilling that recovery, especially for long-haul routes connecting Europe and Asia. Iran has now reopened its airspace to most flights following the temporary restriction. International and regional carriers are gradually resuming operations through Iranian skies. However, analysts caution that the situation remains fragile. Geopolitical tensions are still high, and any sudden flare-up could trigger fresh disruptions. Airlines and governments continue to monitor developments closely. Experts also note that while the closure was limited in duration, it signals the volatility of the region, where civilian infrastructure can become a flashpoint even outside of full-scale conflict. In an increasingly interconnected world, events in one region can have global consequences, from grounded flights thousands of miles away to rising geopolitical uncertainty. Today's airspace closure over Iran is a stark reminder of that reality. Stay with us for continuing updates on this story and its global impact.